Some of you have been here a while now and might know that I'm a pretty lazy man. But how on earth can you have a healthy diet that's also easy and convenient? Well, if you live in the US, it is your lucky day because I've got the perfect solution for you. Factor offers you the chance to get fresh, ready-made meals delivered directly to your doorstep. They're never frozen, they're full of high quality ingredients and packed with nutritional value too. It even offers meals for those following different lifestyles and diets. So what are you waiting for? Go and click that lovely link at the top of the description now. You'll get plenty of money off your first order with Factor and some off the few after too. You'd be a fool to miss out on an opportunity like that.
Hello and welcome to another managerial special from the Unsport podcast. I'm Craig Savage, your host of managerial specials, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. Today we're going back to Wales in Cardiff. They have hired Erol Bulut as their new first team manager, replacing Sabri Lamouchi. That's another manager in for Cardiff. Let's talk about the previous manager, Sabri Lamouchi. He only had 18 games, kept Cardiff up. That was the main thing, and you would have thought after keeping them up, he would have taken the job full time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, really, because he obviously took over, as you say, towards the end of January, right near the end of the window, and he did his job. His job was to keep them in the Championship. They were in a bit of a mess at the time. Obviously wasn't helped by the fact that other clubs went to managers who just produced miracles, like Neil Warnock at Huddersfield, and he kept them in the division, which in my opinion was a job well done. He averaged more than a point a game. He won 6 of his 18 in charge, and he got them 20 points in 18 games, which got them over the line relatively comfortably in the end. So, from my point of view, he did a very good job. For a club whose squad I think we're both probably in agreement with isn't brilliant by Championship standards, he managed to drag them over the line pretty comfortably. And
well, you say pretty comfortably if it wasn't for point deductions.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that happened before the end of the season, so we knew where everyone stood. But look, they were one off the 50-point mark, which you would generally say is the very comfortable success mark. But for me, he did a good job. He's generally always done a good job when he's been in a Championship. And at Cardiff, he got them over the line. I think the thing that was probably more interesting was the comments that have come out since from the chairman talking about the fact that he did a great job, but that the chemistry didn't click with people behind the scenes. And I mean, I don't want to be provocative here, but I would argue those that click behind the scenes with Cardiff maybe aren't the people you're looking for. You don't want a yes person or someone who's just going to go along with the flow, which has been at times crazy under the current tenureship at Cardiff. So I kind of feel you want someone who's going to push against the grain a little bit and actually try and push the club forward. And let's be honest, it's going to have come down to an argument over either budgets, number of players needed during the summer, or who's going to be in charge of recruiting those players. But look, it's very early days, and Erol Bulut is a bit of a wild card, which we'll get to in a minute. But I wouldn't be sure that letting Lamouchi go is the right decision at this stage.
No, you would think Cardiff need that slow build to be challenging back up into the top half, at least the top half of the Championship, let alone go for the playoffs or even win the league. Does it all stem from behind the scenes, not just Lamouchi, not just the players, but behind the scenes? Obviously, all the stuff with Nantes at the moment, with obviously Salah's unfortunate death.
Yeah, I mean, out of unfortunate circumstances have become a horrific argument over money for a number of years, which obviously, given the circumstance in which it arose, seems really, really pathetic. But it does affect, on a very blunt point, it affects financial fair play. It affects Cardiff City's outgoings, and it has led to a reduction in their spend in the last couple of years. They're not helping themselves by, I know this one was out of contract, but replacing managers frequently. And it's something we've seen throughout, isn't it? You had great spells where they came up to the Premier League and looked good. Then you've had the chaos of wanting to change to a different lucky colour of the owner and all sorts of silly things that have just led to divides and then reunites and then divides and whatever else. But there isn't stability behind the scenes. There isn't, while the people are the same, there isn't a constant methodology. There isn't a constant plan. There isn't really a project. And while it has been a gradual dwindling of the size and the budget of the club squad, the management, you feel there needs to be some stability. I know they tried that with Morrison, who maybe just ended up being the wrong person. But yeah, for me, you're right. Unless things are completely stable off the pitch, I'm not sure that Cardiff are going to be pushing on towards that top half. And look, I know we mentioned it as Luton fans off camera. We were glad to get out the Championship when we did, because next season it looks a lot tougher than this year, let's be honest.
Yeah, and you can see our Championship review later on. Let's talk about the new man in charge for 2023-24 season, and that is Erol Bulut. A Cardiff City statement is as far as it's extremely long, and I won't go into every detail because it'll bore everyone.
Thank you.
Cardiff City Football Club is delighted to announce the appointment of Erol Bulut as their first team manager. With over 25 years of experience at the top levels of European football as both a player and a manager, the 48-year-old has signed a deal at Cardiff City and will meet the club staff and the media for the first time on Monday afternoon. At the time of this recording, it's pretty much now. Speaking of his appointment, Vincent Tan said that I would like to welcome Erol and offer him my sincerest best wishes and good luck as manager of Cardiff City. This summer allowed us to consider applicants for the manager position from across Europe, and having taken our time with the process, I'm extremely confident that we have chosen the best candidate to take us forward. Erol has a vast experience both as a player and as a manager, having played Champions League football and managed European sides across 200 league games to date. This level of experience is needed at this time, and I think will prove invaluable to the squad. Erol's enthusiasm and hunger for success impresses me greatly. When we spoke, it became clear that his intensity and hard work ethic matched the core cultural traits that I want our club to return to. His excellent record in European football represents a standard of managerial experience that we have not had at Cardiff City before. His experience in this field, I hope, will allow us to attract a higher profile and standard of player in the coming years. Right, let's start with Vincent Tan's statement there.
There's a few contradictions in it.
Yeah, the main thing I wanted to look at was his excellent record in European football represents a standard of managerial experience that we have not had at Cardiff City before. Looking back at previous managers, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you'd say, Neil Warnock, not really Neil Warnock, Mick McCarthy, should I say, he's had international experience. What is he talking about?
Well, I don't actually think the point, as you rightly allude to, is whether he's right or wrong with that remark, because, as you mentioned, Mick McCarthy has managed internationally at a World Cup. He's had other managers that have managed in the Premier League in Europe, whatever. But the biggest problem for me is you're in the Championship. You were in a relegation dogfight in the Championship for a lot of last year. Even if you're building towards an end goal, most fans would probably expect to be mid-table, maybe a little sneak into the top half at best next season. What is the value in a manager who's got great experience in European football? Of course, that can add a different dimension to the club. It can improve the type of player you can bring in. There's no doubt in those things are correct. But is that the way, firstly, Cardiff have operated in the last couple of years? Definitely not. They've gone for either younger players or lower league players and tried to build them up. And is it the way that they want to go forward? Are they going to be able to compete with, well, let's just pluck some names, Leeds, Leicester, even some of the sides coming up from League One, Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich going down to the other end? There's going to be big teams in the Championship again. Cardiff are one of those, of course, but are you going to be really fishing in a pool for big European talent, which of course can be great, but you've got to have a good recruitment team and things behind the scenes for that, which Cardiff haven't always shown in recent years. I just find it's not even that the statement's right or wrong. It's just very bizarre for the situation Cardiff are in. It doesn't seem to be incredibly realistic. And like you say, when you look at the people who were very successful in the dogfight for relegation in the Championship last year, Lamouchi at Cardiff, Warnock at Huddersfield, etc., they're all incredibly experienced Championship managers. And I don't know, maybe Cardiff are preparing for something that they'd like to be in rather than what they may realistically be in this year, which is a shame to say because Cardiff are a big Championship club.
This has a deja vu effect of Hull and Shota Velotti.
Do you know what I thought when it happened? The first thing I thought was when Barnsley started going a bit awry with Marcus Schopp. That's the first thing I got.
Was it Marcus? Who was before Marcus Schopp? Was before.
So they had a couple of relative successes, didn't they? With obviously Stendhal, who brought them up, and then Struber. But then they went Marcus Schopp, then they went Agbashi, and I thought you're clutching at straws here. And this is what I feel now because the linking behind the scenes isn't joined with it, and that's the big thing. It's not a whole club going in the same direction. It's we've tried this plan, Mick McCarthy being one probably recently as an example. It hasn't worked. let's go for something completely different. So at Southampton now, I know we'll get onto that soon. They're going to have Russell Martin, and their last managerial appointment was Nathan Jones. You couldn't have two opposite styles of football. There's no joined up thinking. It just, these sorts of things baffle me in this day and age when there's so much data available.
Well, let's get to the man himself, Erol Bulut. Only managed in Turkey. Of all that European experience, he's managed just in Turkey, in one country.
No comment.
And this is not a dig at the Turkish league. No problems with that.
No, it's a good
very
league.
big teams. There's very big teams in there. This is Shota Arveladze because the exact same situation. He might start well, but then the wheels fall off. And when you talk about recruitment and that stuff, that's where Shota Arveladze went wrong. The recruitment went wrong, and then the style of play that they wanted to have didn't really suit the owner's needs. And then they sacked him before a league game against Luton. But they sacked him literally the day of the league game. Do you think this is going to be similar, or do you feel like this actually could work?
Look, I hope I'm wrong. And obviously there are odd occasions here. We normally get them pretty right, but there's odd occasions where you get egg on your face. But I just don't see it working. Partly because maybe not even similar to Arveladze. I don't think he's got a great chance to succeed because the club hasn't got a clear direction off the pitch. And look, he's done a generally decent job at his clubs in Turkey, given the expectations of each team. And he's got good experience as a player. He's played for some very big clubs, had a good career, Germany, Greece, etc. But this is a first experience of English football for him, which isn't a negative or a positive. It can come in with a breath of fresh air, but I just think with the summer recruitment, it's going to be relatively restrictive. We've got loads of teams. I'd argue probably Cardiff would be in the bottom third based on their current squad on paper to most people. And obviously they finished the first place outside the relegation zone last year. They're not a club that's flying or firing on all cylinders. So I don't think he's got a great chance to succeed at the start, and I don't see it working out, if I'm being honest. I had Cardiff in a relegation battle with Lamouchi in charge for next season, but I thought he'd probably keep them out of the bottom three. I think it gets tricky now. I really do. I know that the style he's played at some of his clubs he's been at has been criticised for being relatively boring, something that was particularly labelled about him during his stint at Fenerbahce, which is probably by far the biggest club he's managed in his career so far, with that intense scrutiny. And a lot of the feedback was, yes, they were getting decent results, but it was pretty tedious to watch at times. And to be fair, maybe Cardiff need that, but then wasn't that the criticism of Steve Morrison, that they were trying to hold out for 1-0 wins and it was a bit hard to watch at times? So I don't know. I really don't know what they're going for here. And if I had to put my finger on it, I would say that it's probably not going to be a success. I'd edge towards the same way as you, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see them. I can easily see Cardiff doing what they do, and probably do a Watford and sack him quite early on.
Well, I didn't say that because I knew it'd be your next question. So
that's pretty much it, really. Because I want to say, how long do you think he'll last? And we don't think he'll last long at all. I feel like it's a massive step from Turkish football to the Championship. Championship for me is probably the fourth or fifth best league in the world. And it's definitely one of the hardest.
Gotcha.
And it's going to be a lot harder next season. We're looking at all the teams that are in it.
Let's say as well, though, it's no slight on him if he doesn't see out the season, because the average lifespan of a Championship manager isn't a season now. So he's not going to be in a unique club for that. But yeah, there's very little chance, in my opinion, of this working or him seeing out the season. But it's the Championship's bonkers now, isn't it?
Well, if he does better than Rob Edwards, then he might have a chance. But
11 games, there you go. You never know.
Get 11 games. But that is our thoughts on the hiring of Erol Bulut as the new Cardiff City manager. Let us know in the comments what you think of the appointment and how do you think he'll get on in his spell at Cardiff. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.